Tate has noticeably slimmed down, which indicates that he might come back to fighting. But even in his prime, Andrew Tate was a mid-level fighter. And fights after retirement look even sadder, because of which we can conclude that in fights against YouTube boxers, Tate may lose. If you don't believe me, let's take a look at his post-retirement fights and compare to the skills of the Paul brothers and KSI. Fights after retirement. Let's start in chronological order. So we'll see if Tate's form has improved, as well as whether the opposition has gotten better. Miralem Ahmedi versus Andrew Tate. What you're seeing is Andrew Tate's classic fight after retirement. The opponent is 2 times smaller and looks like someone's uncle who got lost on the way home. It's clear that he doesn't know what fighting is, but even he understands that constant pressing is key to defeating Tate. However, the kick that flew near his nose convinced him that there was no need to continue the fight. Yulian Strigaryu versus Andrew Tate. In this fight, we see more technique from Tate, only because the opponent decided not to give up from the first punch on the block. Let's ignore the size and physical shape of Yulian. In general, you can ignore everything except one moment. Here, Andrew demonstrates a non-standard way of controlling distance. Tate measures the distance and simultaneously lures his opponent for a counterattack. Yes, he did it with his feet. In boxing, this technique is useless, but that's not the point. Tate has demonstrated that he can mask distance control and counterattack in a non-standard way. Now, let's talk about a more competitive fight where a debutant who physically is much smaller almost knocked out Andrew Tate. Cosmic Lingurar versus Andrew Tate. Even in his prime, Tate's style had one major gap. He always needed space to attack, and when you take it away from him, Andrew becomes helpless. This was understood by his opponent, Cosmic Lingurar. Despite the debut, he immediately, fearlessly decided to press Tate, thanks to which he rocked him in the first seconds. Andrew skillfully recovered in the clinch, but immediately made the same mistake. He again threw a push kick to create distance, for which he was immediately punished, but not as hard as at the beginning of the fight. Andrew was ready for the third same attack. He eats the right overhand twice. The third time he managed to dive under it. The young Cosmic Lingurar quickly realized that the overhand would not work, so in the next attack he focused on the left hook. He deliberately stepped in with a straight punch to put his feet wider for the hook. He hit hard, but connected not with his fist, but with his wrist. It's noticeable that these attacks took a lot of strength from the debutant. He does not skillfully spend his gas tank, unlike Andrew, who waited out the early storm. And he began to treat the opponent's body with kicks to completely knock out the remnants of cardio. Due to fatigue, the overhand attacks became too obvious, but it's amazing how the debutant simply outstrikes the 4-time world champion. By mid-round, Cosmic's attacks had become very sloppy, with Tate skillfully timing his punches between his punches. Although Andrew counterattacked well, he painted himself into a corner. It's clear that Tate is also a little tired, although he masks it. Otherwise, how to explain that the kick with which he should have pushed the opponent pushed Andrew himself away? Therefore, he did not take advantage of the next unsuccessful attack of the opponent. As soon as Andrew notices that the guard stopped the enemy's attacks, which he says doesn't work.
People who don't fight have this idea that you just keep your gloves up to protect yourself, but the problem is that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
He gained confidence and began to attack harder himself. The round ended in a powerful exchange. The beginning of the second round resembles the beginning of the first round. The opponent easily rushed Tate to the ropes. Andrew counterattacked the left hook. But Cosmic Lingurar did not bet on the hook, but on the overhand, which he definitely connected. However, with each attack, he slowed down more and more. This was facilitated by kicks to the body from Tate. By the middle of the round, the initiative passed into the hands of Andrew. but the surrender of the opponent still looks strange. Andrew has serious ring rust. His timing and control of the distance got worse, but the ability to spend energy and concentration brought him victory. In general, the organization of this fight is a very strange idea. Who allowed the debutante to fight with the 4-time world champion, who has almost 100 fights under his belt? For a debutante with a supermarket's advertising on his back, Cosmic Lingurar did an excellent job. If you want a video about fixed fights and an analysis of how much Andrew's fights can be fixed, let me know in the comments. But what would Tate look like against
Jake Paul, Logan Paul, any other Paul,
and KSI? Watch to the end, because the one you bet on has the least chance to beat Andrew. Tate versus YouTubers. If you like my content and want to get early access, you can visit my Patreon. There you can find not only YouTube boxing videos, but more, like MMA breakdowns of movies, and video games. Link in the description. Let's start with a fight where Andrew is a strong favorite and end with a fight where he's most likely to be knocked out. You have no idea what YouTuber is real kryptonite for him. Tate versus Logan Paul. Chances are you thought that the most convenient opponent of this trio was KSI, but no. Why Logan? He suits Andrew with his technical and mental flaws. More than once, it's been noticed that Logan does not withstand the pressure and mentally breaks down in competitive events. In fact, this is the main reason why he lost to KSI, who's smaller than him and less athletic. From this problem follows Logan's second problem, cardio. Apparently, he can't control his nerves and adrenaline, because of which he hurries in the first rounds and runs out of steam by the middle of the fight. This happened to him in his KSI and Floyd fights. Logan's size also plays into Tate's hands. All his defensive moves work well against opponents of his height or higher. Sidesteps, dives, and counterattacks are perfect for Tate in a fight with Logan. Because if the opponent is inferior to Andrew in size, he needs to make more efforts for diving underhands and similar movements. Tate's defense is somewhat reminiscent of Alexander Gustafsson, who, with his height, mainly uses defensive maneuvers of short fighters. That's why his best fights are against fighters the same height as him or above. Despite Andrew's average skills, he is really good at controlling his energy, as well as exhausting the opponent. In a fight with the same Cosmic Lingurar, he used a lot of clinch to make the debutante hold Tate's weight and get tired. That's why I think Andrew would have exhausted Logan Paul, and then knocked him out with a counterattack in the second half of the fight. Paul's only chance of winning could be through pressing through a double jab, but the problem is that Logan rarely uses the jab for its intended purpose. Instead of keeping his opponent on the edge of the punch or pressuring through the jab, he gets himself into an unfavorable distance. If you want a detailed analysis of Logan Paul's technique, support the video with a like and write a comment about it. And now we move on. Tate versus Jake Paul. It's the most balanced matchup of the three. For Jake, this is the first opponent who will surpass him in size, so just taking him by force will not work. Tate himself is a fan of using his size in the clinch and exhausting the opponent there. Neither Jake nor Andrew like to pressure the opponent to the ropes. This will open the hands of both to attack. We've seen Andrew eat the right overhand and left hooks more than once since his comeback, both of which Jake hits well. He will definitely connect, but it's another matter whether he can finish him off. Tate will use his experience and clinch until he reads Jake's timing for counterattacks. The pattern of the fight will be uniform. The first half will be for Jake, and the second for Andrew. This fight will most likely go to decision, where the one who'll pressure harder will win. This is why this fight is 50-50. And now, let's talk about the fight where Tate is the underdog. Tate versus KSI. None of you expected it, but it's true. KSI is the worst matchup for Tate. Attentive ones could already notice that kryptonite for Andrew is a dish consisting of pressure, double jab, and overhand. JJ has it all. Everyone already knows that he is constantly pressing, and if he learns how to cut corners better and control the space in the ring, it will be easy for him to deprive Tate of space for counterattacks and to remove his defensive actions. KSI has a good jab to the body, to which he needs to add a double jab to the head. So Andrew, out of habit, will pull away from the first jab, but on the second, KSI will catch him. After such deep pull, Tate will not be able to immediately run away. Most likely, he'll stand still and try to counterattack with a right hook, to which KSI can respond with a left hook or a right overhand. Jabs to the midsection will become feints, behind which he will hide hook and overhand, which in turn will limit Andrew's desire to dive under the arm or shift, and thus all movements will be harder to perform for Tate, because he is way taller than KSI. On paper, it's an easy enough fight for KSI, but the quality of his technique can fail. As well, you need to take into account the size of Tate. He is taller and heavier, and also knows how to exhaust opponents in the clinch, which is easier to do when the opponent is smaller. Who do you think would have won in these fights? Write in the comments. And if you want a more detailed analysis of each of these matchups, let's get 5,000 likes. If you have questions, you can go to my personal Instagram. Link in the description.